joining us for Donuts and Development. We had a slight technical difficulty that we've worked through now, so we're really excited for our panel today. Thanks everybody for joining us in the Tri-City Business Center LLC boardroom, which is open for sponsorship. If there's anybody here that would be interested in sponsoring the boardroom, that is possible. So CSF will be webinar program, whatever we call it. We'll get into it. So today we've got our city projects that are driving this Tri-Cities economy forward. And so I'm going to start on my right, your left, the introductions, and then each of our cities will give a presentation that you won't be able to see on the screen, but they will be able to tell you about in person, which is a much more meaningful presentation. And then we'll get into some questions and answers. So thanks everybody for being here. I'm going to start off with Eric Mendenhall, who's the Community Development Director from West Richland. Good morning, Eric. Morning. You heard a picture out of Sawmill today. It's really nice. Mandy Wallner is the Economic Development Manager for City of Richland. Morning, Mandy. Craig Raymond is Community and Economic Development Deputy Director from Pasco. Right. And Anthony Muai is the Community Planning Director from Kennewick. Morning. And since Anthony was our last introduction, I'll give him the remote and ask him to kick us off with this discussion. All right.
We're trying to keep people awake this morning. So good morning. Again, I'm Anthony Muai, City of Kennewick. You have quite a bit going on. A brief overview of what last year looked like for us. We had building permit valuation at $563 million. We issued over 2,000 permits, over 2,200 permits, and had 317 new single-family residences, which is a pretty good measure on our end. We like to keep track of those. They give a sense of where we're growing and then what commercial development is going to follow behind them. We had new commercial and tenant improvement permits, totaling 118, issued 17, almost 1,800 new business licenses, and had over 500,000 square feet of commercial retail space. So we've got several different kind of focus areas throughout the city where we've got building and construction going on. One of the closest areas to here is actually a convention center expansion project and a new hotel that's being built adjacent to it. So the new convention center will have 60,000 square feet of exhibit hall space. There will be 5,000 square feet of meeting room space. And the space will be a multifunctional space that will allow not only for conventions and exhibition, but is being prepped so that it can also offer an additional indoor venue for sporting events, tournaments specifically. So I can't remember the number, but they can fit a pretty good number of basketball courts, full-size basketball courts, as well as volleyball courts within the convention center space itself. So just looking to diversify how the space is being used and really play on the active recreation and tournament operates that the Tri-Cities has right now. In addition to the convention center, there's an AC Marriott hotel being built as well. It's a 162-room hotel. The convention center is expected to be completed this fall, and the hotel will follow in the spring. Just adjacent to the convention center, construction is Vista Field, and we've been excited about Vista Field for quite a while. It's a new offering that in the Tri-Cities that we haven't seen before, or mixed use, urban, new urbanism style development that the Port of Kennewick is working on. We have 2 new businesses that have opened there, Blueberry Bridal and Kuki Izakaya, Japanese restaurant. In addition to that, the city recently signed an extension to our development agreement with the port, just solidifying our partnership and giving them assurances that the city is on board with the future of the development. In the works, we have a 5-story mixed-use building that's being proposed on that site. There's the parcel that purchased for that already, and they're going through a review with the port. And then the port, whenever the port also selected a residential developer for a small lot, single family development within. So we're hoping that now that they've kind of figured out all of their PFAS issues there in this field, that they'll be able to start moving forward with more development. Columbia Center and Canal commercial corridor is another area where we're seeing a lot of redevelopment and new businesses moving in. Within Columbia Center, we have Dave & Buster's, which you may have heard, is going to be moving into the old Joann's, which is formerly the Sears location. In addition to Five Below, it's moving into the old Country Buffet space. And then JD Sports, which is a European English British sporting goods company. They moved into they're in the mall itself, and it's in the mall itself. So we're excited to have them. Also on that corridor and kind of outside the mall footprint, North Shore Act is moving into the suite adjacent to Burlington Coat Factory, facing Columbia Center Boulevard. So we're excited for them to come. There will be an additional suite adjacent to them. That there have been key discussions on what we go there. So the next big build the next year. Cabot River is moving in as well to the old Davis Bridal in that same parking lot. And then just adjacent to that parking lot where we have urban air indoor parks moving into the old and there's a lot there before. So that's just right in the course, just right in that area. We've got quite a bit of activity that's going that's currently under review, and it's going to be. So we're excited for that cluster development. Should mention it's probably hard to miss, but there's also the big hotel that's like corner of Grand Ridge. Or excuse me, Quinall and area. Another emphasis that we're trying to where we're trying to increase emphasis and have this for some time is our waterfront area in our downtown. We've had several new businesses move into that area. Wheathead on the Water, if you're familiar with Wheathead Brewery, they're opening in Artisan Village, the port owns. As well as Brandy Bay Art, our gallery in that same development. Across the street from there, we have the Towns on Elm, which is a series of townhomes and live work units that were constructed on Elm Street. Not a big fan of like the Elm Street. Every time I think of Elm Street, I just think of Freddy Krueger. But and if you've been down in that part of Kennewick, anytime in the past, like it is kind of a lot going on down there. It's very industrial. But that area was rezoned as part of the bridge to bridge revitalization plan. And we're starting now to see development start to take place in that area. So we're hoping, the hope initially was that the Artisan Village would be a great catalyst for future development in that area. And we're starting to see that happen. So the Towns on Elm, there's a great project, something open down in that area. And we're hoping that there's more development to hold for pulling that up. In our downtown core itself, we had a couple of big businesses open recently, Baker's Bookshop, as well as N60 Beach Jar. I hope I said that right. I don't speak French, but it's correct me after the presentation. We've also entered into started work on strategic plans for our downtown and really looking at infrastructure improvements. Focusing on the pedestrian realm and how we could potentially spur residential development. Some of the upper floors of the buildings that are currently underutilized. We're looking at streetscape improvements along Kennewick Avenue as well as a road diet on First Avenue. And then really highlighting connections from that area of the downtown to our civic center as we prepare for hopefully a new city hall and finding out for the see the civic area develop over the next several years. The goal with the strategic plan really is to increase population in the downtown, not just during the daytime business hour, but both in the morning and evenings. And some of that will, along with some of that, will be some refinements to our zoning code. Additionally, downtown, you're unaware, Heritage University is located in our downtown area. They are currently taking out, I would say, 2/3 of the upper floor of the whole Tri-City Herald building. And the city recently entered into a memorandum of understanding with the university that will enable us to support one another as they attempt to grow in the Tri-Cities where they see their future being, and as we strive to redevelop the downtown. So we've been partnering together on things like workforce development and the development of a business incubator and an innovation hub within Richland. So we're hoping that students there who are taking the business classes will be able to partner with businesses who are just starting to or new startups and wanting to get their people on the ground and running to have access both to resources at the university and students who are looking to learn as well. So we're excited about that. And Southridge, many of you may know, is one of our biggest growing areas where we expect a lot of our residential development to take place over the next 20 years. We are working currently on the review of the Veterans Affairs Clinic. The clinic will be building at the corner of Richland and Southridge, just kitty corner from Trios Hospital. And we're proposing 120,000 plus square feet of outpatient services that will be built there. They're relocating. I don't want to say that they're necessarily relocating because they didn't give us that detail, but a lot of the services that are being done in Wallner are going to be done here as well. Some of those may be relocated from Wallner to the Tri-Cities. They intend to maintain their presence in a clinic in Wallner, but the bulk of their services are going to be provided here in the Tri-Cities and those facilities. We've also had the opening of Idaho Central Credit Union. We have Schwab Tires in review, and cafe construction. And we've got several multifamily projects that are currently in review, including the Arrival Kennewick project with 300 units, Dental Way Apartments with 195, and Canyon View Apartments, which is the closest to being completely and so with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this to you. If you have any questions on what's going on in Kennewick, I'd be more than happy to answer those. Either now or after the will be paid. Each one of the questions today.
Hey, as mentioned, my name is Craig Raymond. I'm the Deputy Director for Community and Economic Development in the City of Pasco. I've been here almost 2 years now. Moved here from Montana, so it's been a real pleasure to come back into. I'm a Washington native, so we're coming back closer to home. And it's been a busy time, and it's been a pleasure to be back. So it's nice to meet you all. So, and there's a lot going on, like everybody else, kind of like Richland, West Richland, there's a lot going on in the city of Pasco these days. We are, like everybody else, in the midst of our comp plan update, which is a really huge project. You know, it's one of the major focuses that we have for this year. Recent milestones, last week actually submitted several of the elements to the Department of Commerce for the review, including the transportation, housing, land use, and capital facilities. So that's some good milestones to hit there. In conjunction with comp plan related to transportation, we're also undergoing a major transportation system master plan update. It's kind of like the transportation element of the comp plan upstairs with people a lot more detail really kind of focusing in on needs of the future and more of the immediate projects that we're planning for moving forward. Next phases of the comp plan update would be the economic development. We'll be engaging in more conversation with our community partners in that regard, especially for Pasco, but for everybody else. So, critical areas and park elements are also to be looked at. In conjunction with the critical areas element of the comp plan, the city of Pasco is also undergoing a really deep dive into updating our critical areas authority. We're going to take a close, hard look at a subject that's just near and dear to everybody's hearts, and that is stretched up landscape mitigation and things of that nature, trying to make it much more efficient and effective to work through those hurdles, to move this project forward, much more effective and efficient. So that's going to be a major effort. I think people are going to really appreciate the outcome of that project. I think it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be a pretty significant game changer in how we do it. So that's good. As far as schedule is concerned, we're going to be sending more elements to Commerce in September, posting it online, and presenting it to council in September. Keep your eyes open and ears tuned for the opportunity to dive into, take a look at some of those and provide comment to city council and staff. At the same time that we're dealing with a lot of these elements, obviously there's a vast amount of interest in people wanting to maybe take a closer look at their particular property and the land use designations that it currently has. So we have a pretty long list of properties that really would like to see something more advantageous for the future plan. At the same time as that, you have land capacity analysis and density studies that you're taking a close look at to potentially redesignate property and making way for some of the new population that we have done in the Pasco and Tri-Cities in general. I was just looking at some of the data yesterday, and over the last 5+ years, city of Pasco population has grown approximately 11%, a little over 85,000 now, estimated for 2026. So obviously a pretty significant increase in population. Obviously, you all are well aware of it. Very rapid. And of course, no comp plan or code update would be complete without the plethora of state mandates that are being handed down, particularly in regard to things like housing and parking, ADUs and different densities. Along with the comp plan update, we're undertaking some pretty major zoning code updates as well. Our zoning code, that's one of the things with the experience on the growing pains of the community that is growing very rapidly. You have some antiquated or old code structures that just don't really work all that well, aren't that user-friendly. So we're taking this opportunity to not only update our code with items related to the comp plan effort specifically, but also just a much more user-friendly interface. One example of that, right now you have about 10 different places to understand what can actually occur in any given zoning district. So we're changing everything around to make it much more user-friendly. One of the things we're also focusing on with that is taking a close look at what actually requires special approval or conditional use permits. We really want to decrease those things that are really just pretty ordinary and customary and eliminate that special use permit process. And it'll just make a lot of projects just go much smoother. So we think that'll be a pretty significant improvement. Another really exciting recent code update is our special event code. We really focused on decreasing the number and type of events that actually need a special permit from the city. effectively taking us out of the business in some cases, but also making the application process much simpler to navigate, a lot more predictable as far as understanding, okay, based on the size and type of event, now I already know ahead of time how many security personnel we're going to have to have on hand or staff instead of security personnel. So that was one of the things that we really tried to improve on in that co-op process. And I think it's going to be really good for special events in Pasco. One of the other efforts that we just recently undertook is there's been a conflict in the river here as far as zoning versus comp plan designation, and it really hindered some redevelopment projects that were being proposed in that area over the last few years. And so we just recently did an update to really emergency update to both the comp plan and the zoning code. So you know, some of those short plots that we were saying sort of stifled and can now hopefully move forward in some increase some density in certain areas of the city that were struggling for a little while. So that was also just for speaking. Again, just talking about some of the upcoming code updates along with the comp plan work. Again, state mandates primarily related to middle housing, ADUs, parking regulations. And again, we're just really trying to make our code more user friendly and much more clear. And we should have going for more so. One other thing I should mention, this is actually a pretty significant subject in the Tri-Cities area in general. As you can see in the news, we're going to be undertaking a major code rewrite for secure community transitional facilities. And obviously that's been a pretty hot topic of late. So City of Pasco really was not prepared to how to appropriately cite these types of uses in residential neighborhoods or elsewhere. So the City Council passed a temporary moratorium on introducing these new facilities in Pasco. But we're actually proposing to go to we got one public hearing, I think it was June 1st, before the City Council. We're going to have a workshop on the 22nd and potentially another public hearing on July 6th that introduce new ordinance to creating standards on where these facilities can be located. So that'll be good to kind of have some clarity on how to handle it. So. And I'm sure as you've seen some in the news, the Broadmoor master plan area. Of course, I picked a lot of pictures related to the aquatic center. And what's really exciting about the ribbon cutting of the aquatic center last week, there really becomes all the effort and work in the Broadmoor master plan area just becomes much more evident. It's been a 10+ year effort, over $39 million in public funds for public infrastructure, and it finally begins to really take shape. Obviously, you can see quite a bit of residential development north of the Broadmoor area. Plenty going on there, some very large subdivisions. In fact, we have a preliminary plat we're moving forward right now, and one particular piece of property is well over 600 lots. And elsewhere in the Broadmoor area, that the ribbon cutting for the aquatic center, I think was really exciting in a number of ways because you can really start to see the Broadmoor area take shape. It really makes public investment much more exciting, if you will. And it's a really cool facility. If you haven't seen it yet, please go check it out. Great facility for the young and the young at heart. I think it's going to be an awesome addition to the Tri-Cities. We do have quite a few commercial and retail projects ongoing and upcoming. Obviously, the Amazon Pearl facility, while it was generally constructed as a shell, they're finally moving forward with completing that project as a fulfillment center, kind of completing that campus. There's a large retail store being worked on right now. while they haven't really announced who they are, what we do know is that certain retailers have targeted Pasco. So they'll be excited to see how that unfolds in the future. And that's all I have.
Mandy.
Thanks. So I'm Mandy Wallner, economic development manager for City of Richland. So like other cities, we're doing some comp kind of things, which I was put in my presentation, so I'm gonna just skip that part. But I'll talk a little bit about where we're at, up to date for permitting in 2026. So we do have some new commercial, permits, of course, that have come in. We're trending a little bit low for the year, but expect that to pick up. 9% improvements, some valuation like included there. Kind of went over a little bit of what our tenant improvements are required for. We also have been doing a lot of work on our code required 5 entities that the tenant improvement basic permit. Even things like business license, we find that there's a lot of people who don't know when they get a business license. So how do we, work with them to get some of those things more approachable, more easily understood, before they're in a building that they don't know. And then also 220 permits for single family, 26 so far. We evaluation a little over 78 million, which is slightly less than where we were at this time last year, but Central Business District, we've been really excited. So this, we've seen a few changeovers in business, which is obviously low, but we're happy when we see new businesses repopulate those areas. So we have things downtown and which also we should work to updating from Western Central. They were very planning. So if you haven't partaken in that, then you got to check them out. They're down by the park. Blue Carrot, which I have not had the opportunity to partake, but the business for Freeform is down in Parkway, so for your office functions, Yellow Cafe, Koala Cafe, so we're a lot of cafe folks if you down, so check those out. And then Solar Spirits opened a tasting room and restaurant in the Parkway, so they still have their production facility out to Rapids, but they're now out of downtown, which is exciting. And I just want to make sure to take every opportunity to talk about our downtown loop project. So that is coming up. It's going to start in the fall. Seen 6 months delay on that project. Once a week, it's a right-of-way acquisition. So working through those steps and processes to make sure that we get all those things in and out prior to construction. But you probably hopefully have seen our ads in the Journal of Business every month, kind of talking about that program and all the things to support business. What that project is, for those that don't know, you can go downtownloop.com, so check out the website, but essentially George Washington will become one-way north and Jack will become one-way south. And that'll be terminated at Sandy Street and Jack, so vibrancy, downtown walkability, and those kinds of things, which has also prompted the Economic Development Division to work on a wayfinding plan, because I don't know if you can find it that much time. Thankfully, a lot of us living, but if you really were a visitor, it's a big. So you're going to fix that problem. Start with the downtown and then hopefully expand that and further out. So we just got those RFPs back, look toward that soon. We also see season 5 piece, so we'll be working on the economic development. So a lot of good planning efforts going on now so that we can get the next phase developed. We've talked before about track speeding. It is still at the forefront of what we're doing, so I always like to make sure that people haven't forgotten about it. There is a large municipal plan though that is part of that project, and so the city has undertaken several forms and evolutions of investigation of that infill, and so we are currently in the last phase of that investigation. I started to work through this project forward, so it'll be a mix of uses. Townhomes, apartments, but a lot of mixed use and vibrancy for walkability and connectedness to the park system. Definitely that last piece to be developed. We want to know that so that's exciting and something fun to work on. Lots of available commercial still in our college center. Mostly for lease, but you can chose to just use photos this time because it's a little easier to figure out where it is. But the new Pasco, has 5 pad sites that are to the south of that area. And so we know there's a lot of interest there, a regional improvement firm, in addition to Pasco, we're working on that. We would think, target you can kind of see is the anchor, of course, that's home for Wallner across the street. So where the logo is for Department of Natural Resources, which is based in Pasco, and then just south of that is Richland District. So those are the 2 primary property owners out there, approximately 40 more acres to develop. There's been a fair amount of interest in that. Some enjoy and some don't enjoy the lease only option. So that kind of is determining what those tenants are going to really get built out as. And then the city will have a approximately 10-acre site that will go up for sale, likely in fall timeframe. So that will be the last rate for sale piece available up there without being redeveloped. So also in this corridor are road projects that will go 2 roundabouts that go in on Beaver Trail, which have had a real solid mix of freaking people out and make them happy. So they're both. Some people really love it because it'll be a lot easier to move through there. This is not identified as their unsafe corridor. But those things will help to improve the area. So make that easier to traverse through and have that flow. Back to the area. So let's see if we can have next thing.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. It's all about updates this morning, but it's good. Upcoming road projects I kind of tried to sprinkle throughout, but we also know there are Riata Road roundabout project. Just an update there, midsummer is supposed to be the completion for that project, and it's good that that's something that's private development that's putting that in to help kind of create the flow for that down south with that more connected way in and out. And so that detour will come down, and that should open in summer. I think I worked everything else. I try to put the things that are really annoying because they slow you down. So micro seal projects located mostly in South Richland and then South George Washington Way. Everybody thinks that means we started the loop, but it's a separate project is really my main message there. And that that has just been some minor work, so we're not shutting down lanes or anything like that as far as closures are going. And then I'll have another little stint in July where we put up a new sign, and for the most part, that project should be done besides the landscaping. So it's been a process between the city and Department of Transportation, which for those that have worked with, I know that now. So that's where we're at with that. Where we look at city-owned real estate and land, we have most of our primary interests are in North Richland. So Warner Rapids area, which is highlighted there, and what I see is a very tiny map, so hopefully it's not so tiny for you. And the bottom right corner of the blue area, I'll talk about in a second for our business center. The yellow is the residential area. The manufacturing focused area to the right is for Benton, and then obviously partnership with them and the machines like cities. So some kind of a research development, innovation centered area. And then north of that, in that, I'm not saying area, is a Northwest Advanced Clean Energy Park. And so we're excited to say that, you know, for a long time, we inherited that with help from TriDet, with the Port of Edmond Energy Northwest for development, you know, large scale projects. So we're kind of able to say that that is occupied. So we are now excited to start working on the next major land transfer and what that looks like to continue to build this out, to continue bringing jobs in their business. Within that is going to be the outside urban fertilizer project. That's looking for Mendenhall's property. They won't take anything away from their presentation on the rates, but it is still moving forward. And then Atlas Agro is working on a data center project that will essentially help build out the substation that they need to get the help that they need to get their project. So that will be on the frontage properties along the North Road at the southern end, and then Washington Energy is working on bringing a project on that work for the state was there's a solar project on the Energy Northwest Port of Benton property to the north. So we are all of those from various points moving forward, environmental SEPA contract negotiations. It's pretty exciting. So Grand Rapids Business Center, so this is, some of our bread and butter. We really love working with small business, watching them expand. So some of the new ones that are going in out there, kind of a list of those, everything from food service to welding and machining, which is great, and high performance cars. And then we also have Frank's Concrete Pumping, so a lot of new construction vendors are coming in out there in flex space, but also building their own buildings. So we do have several more 1 acre properties available. We're looking at our third phase of that, looks like for the next round. But we can really customize things. So anything from 1 acre up to 200. So that's pretty exciting. We really enjoy those calls and kind of working through what development looks like. So if you have any questions, we're always happy. As far as services and support programs, we love to kind of focus again, like I said, on small business for job creation and all the reasons that big business is important, honestly. But we have a commercial facade improvement program, and these businesses are some of them that have benefited from it just in the last year. So they're seeing some large refresh on the fronts of their business. So the idea is the commercial facade is $20,000 matching grant in the city for a facade improvement on the building. It's anything on the exterior that's seen from the public right, essentially. It's funded through the business license fees that we get through the city. And so it's a really great way for us to give that back to the community and really keep that blighted area issue down. And then we have, of course, business newsletters and ways to communicate in our passport program. We're in sure work, so feel free to scan that. It's a list of coupons. It's a free service that the city offers, so businesses can call us and offer something. And then anyone in Richland can scan those codes and take advantage of the offers. And so we try to make it user friendly and it's a good approach, but a way to kind of help promote those businesses. And then, of course, we also take ribbon cuttings and handle those in the event that we don't have a chamber partner that's involved. But some services and an event that I'd like to make you aware of. The city has shifted all of our grant programming to be in the late summer and fall each year. And so we're calling that our grant season. And to get that on, we started this year with a grant funding open house. So Wednesday, June 24th at the Richland Public Library, we have up to $2.5 million for 5 different funds that we're going to be putting out to the public. So we will walk through the do's and don'ts and things that make successful projects, things that make it tricky, what to expect for a contract, what those timelines look like, and hopefully all the things that you should want to know about all of our different funding opportunities. And then you'll be able to talk to all of those funders. It is not a show up and let us talk at you. So there'll be like a 10-minute intro with some of the tips and tricks, and then we'll have kind of stations set up for each of those funding partners. By partner, I mean department, but for you to chat with about specifics in each of those. So if you're really only coming to talk about partnership, you can do that without having to hear about all of this. So hoping to just make this more approachable and a little bit more awareness to all of those things. We find some programs get tapped out, some get underutilized. So we kind of took this on and we're trying to revamp it. So we can back it up for us well. So, but more information on richlandbusiness.com/programs, and hope to see you. And questions that are there, but feel free to start thinking about what it's trying to do.
Yeah, there.
Hi. So you mentioned my outfit, so I did wear red, white, and blue as my household tonight, speaking on fireworks. It's gonna be lit, so we should all either pro or con on fireworks to hear what's going down, see what they say. All right. So West Richland, we are growing fast in West Richland. You'll see the numbers don't compare necessarily as you might in larger sister cities here, but for West Richland, we are actually growing quite substantially. So multifamily development over the last several years just kind of ebbed and flowed. Last year we didn't have any, and that was because we had a couple of projects that were in the wait. And one of those got loose, and was 264 apartment units that are going out along Belmont now, and you drive through down Belmont, see these basement buildings, and really say on Belmont. And it is. And then we've got another 100 or so that are located on the Belmont. So multifamily is definitely seeing a spike there and see. Single family development, that's been kind of after COVID, we have a big boom and then it went off in 3, and then the interest rates have started to kind of I'm a little more palatable with the votes, and so we're starting to see it there as well. We typically recover around 150 single family homes every year. I think this year we're going to see more than that with the trends that we've seen currently, especially with more opportunities in West Richland versus the economic sites, the heights of the mountain. You have Watermark, which is up on the hillside, up there, that's up under subdivisions up there. So land development, we do have quite a few lots that are available for purchase by developers, and then start working on some things. So this is what the numbers that you're seeing. These are the new businesses that are located in West Richland. So we just got the ribbon cutting a couple weeks ago. State Farm is in permits right now. That's Rose, we were talking about last year. That Conservation District has had a ribbon cutting almost 50 weeks ago. Bella Vita is in permit, so they're in Richland. I don't think they're relocating. It's a second location. But this one I'm really excited about, and I'll talk to it here in the next slide. Van 4, that's an awesome little Hispanic grocery store and restaurant next door. That's REA are great partners with us. The city, they are going to be opening up here pretty soon. They're having scheduled. So yeah, big deals going on there. Come out, it's going to be a fun time. And then a couple gas stations coming in. This Tamales located next to Dutch Bros. That was a great place to go for a good bite to eat on the visit city. And McDonald's, we have reached the threshold of golden arches there. So we're excited for that because I'm anticipating if they're coming, there's a parade of other stuff. And Planet Fitness purchased a lot across the street from City Hall there on Community of Belmont. So they'll be located in probably 30,000 square foot facility there in the Belmont Business District, which this is the Belmont Business District. So these are the locations of where these new facilities are about. And I kind of am cheating a little bit. I'm hoping it's incremental, but you'll see there in the middle, the Mid-Columbia Children's Museum put out an RFP last month for Carl. And so Richland, West Richland, and Port Kennewick is putting for that proposal. That is the site that we selected, put in for them to go. And so I'm hoping at the end of this month we'll have an announcement that's going to be located. But that's the Belmont Business District, a lot happening there. The La Bella Vita restaurant, that's actually be a 2-story restaurant with the offerings that they have at the current restaurant on the main floor. The second floor will be a Japanese hibachi restaurant. And the windows will be facing west, so you'll see Red Mountain and Rattlesnake, and they'll just enjoy the sunset view from their restaurant. So we're super excited for what they bring for. And then May 5th, we celebrated not just having some tacos and a party, but celebrated the council approving the Bush Park Ranch. This was a 4.5-year effort putting the plan together for this. It includes the overall ranch, 7,700 acres, and then phase 1, which is that blue outlined area to the southeast, that is 750 acres. The zoning of this is a mixed use focused zoning designation. So the red is 90% commercial, 10% residential. The orange is a 60-40 split between the residential and commercial. And then the beige or yellow color there is attached and detached single family residential. So it gives a developer the ability to come in and have flexibility as far as what they want to build and not have to come in and change the city's codes to get that forward. So it's really a unique approach. Hoping this will be a very effective way to help facilitate development in the city of West Richland. And we're excited to see what this is going to bring. Phase one was done through what they call a planned action ordinance, the SEPA, State Environmental Policy Act, which effectively entitles everything that phase one that was reviewed. So you don't have to go through SEPA, you come in, show us your checklist, that it meets the umbrella coverage of the FAO, and then you get subdivide the land or see the site development of that. So phase one, as I said, is 750 acres. We're planning on approximately 4,500 homes, about the same amount of jobs, and with a focus on connectivity community. So park systems, the trails, commercial, schools, everything should be within walkable distance. With the idea that this will be a place that you want to work and play. That's really put a lot of effort with the property owner being involved in this as well, and bringing in some consultants that have some great vision on this. Try to create a place that's a magnet for anyone, where people just draw people in, keep them there. The plan that you have put together will be an attractive place to attract people. This was based on a community called Neighborhood, which is the hottest real estate market in Utah. So we're hoping to get that third one, Washington. So that's the possibility. And then I wanted to talk also about a couple of transportation projects and why they're important. As Mandy, she talked about some transportation projects as well. Transportation, I believe these projects are a seed for development, because as I talked about these frontage improvements that will be done on city or the grants that we give to do these projects. And so as those the commercial development, and they don't have to money along the corridor. So SR 224, Red Mountain Project, goes from the post office on Van Gieson, where that is, visit. It goes all the way out to the Antimony. It's a 3-lane road, so have a turning lane in the middle, with curb gutter sidewalks on both sides, a multi-purpose trail on one side. So that trail will connect you to the King Road Trail, which connects you to all the other trails in the city, as well as some of the underserved communities within the city, which we're pretty excited about. That's in the deal for the city. But again, that goes from the post office all the way out to city limits of Dawn, the racetrack area. And so it's going to create all those frontage improvements along the entire corridor for those enjoying the property investment. Our public works department did a phenomenal job on this project. They were able to come in under budget by $7 million. And so Roscoe went to the state about that earmark put towards another project in the same question. We didn't know that you could do that to provide us no, but we're able to make it happen. So we're happy for that. And so Keene Road, originally we had funding to widen Keene Road. Right now it's widened all the way to the bottom. We tore up the roundabout here, but then we have this next down. We have funding currently to widen it all the way to Belmont. With this transfer of funds, we're able to now widen it all the way. So Keene Road will now be funded and widened from along the range all the way to decent. Creating curb gutter sidewalks and then that purpose trail. It's on Keene Road there, what changes and things on place. It's kind of dependent when you built it, what it is we have to do it. And so that road project should be moved there with the Keene Road, with the Red Mountain project. That's it.
Well, I just have one question for everybody, and then we'll go questions from the audience. But I mean, sometimes I think, especially as far as the city level, municipal level, the forecast and predict growth and demands like growth, and a lot of times I think doesn't really come. So I think it feels like everybody's seeing these growth pressures, and you kind of get out of those when you develop that. That's what I talked about, but like where do you feel like it's coming up in the city next 2 years? You think the growth first and stay going, or do you see maybe slow down? I know you all talk about permitting and stuff, but just from each of your perspectives, like what's your crystal ball for the next 2 years on all types of development, from industrial all the way down to
I'll start since I've been to, but I think that given, what everybody shared here today, there's a lot of projects that.
yeah.
In the Amazon facility, Andy shared going on in Richland and developments that are happening there, potential data centers and the work that, they bring with those developments. I think that, we're going to continue to see both from the industrial side, so as well as the commercial side, which then also brings the demand for the residential area. So I don't see us slowing down with growth at all for the foreseeable future.
I think I'm gonna go, what Eric said. I think there's always ebbs and flows, like, right, like I think we've had a real big commercial push of late, and so as some of the industrial projects come online, we've also seen funding opportunities change for that, so I think that might slow a little bit, we've seen a little of that. But I still think that commercials on an uptick, and as more people are moving to the area for all these jobs we're creating, I think you'll see a lot of the small business kind of playing field change. Things for them are getting a lot more expensive, so you see some of that shift. Mid-sized businesses, I think, are thriving, so I think that's where I would put my growth ticker, but I don't see anything really slowing down for us.
I think for any kind of major economic meltdown, I think it's just going to continue. I think the Tri-Cities in general has been such an intensive rate of growth. Even if it did slow down a little bit, that would still represent significant growth. So I don't think anybody is really anticipating that that's going to slow down significantly.
I would agree with the rest of my colleagues as well. And we don't see a lot of industrial growth, or that a lot of the other jurisdictions are seeing, but we see a lot of that commercial service-oriented growth that supports the people who are moving here for those jobs. And we continue to see projects coming in that vein. And then we have, and not much about residential growth upcoming, but we have a lot of upcoming residential growth that's currently in various stages of development. So I seem to foresee, our residential development staying on the trend that it's on right now, and those supporting services, especially as more and more jobs are created throughout the region.
So, yeah, Robert.
Question for Anthony in downtown Kennewick. What's the status of the public market? I heard them, did it close right behind our ice harbor?
Yeah, that's what we've been told as well. It's closed for now, and not really sure what their plans in the future are.
Okay. Other questions? Yeah, I got one that I think is a hot topic generally across the country. Eric mentioned that data centers. And you guys, from each of your perspectives, started to take a look, or do you have people out there? I think what we see is that traditionally Washington data center growth has been on places where power is the cheapest. So we saw Quincy, just southwest of Attila, like where there's public power producers that have their own generation, or are part of the power authority, kind of facilitate cheap power. But now with AI data centers, I think we're all doing inquiries that we did in the past. I think there's a nationwide, collective fear of data centers, and I'll just say it's very horrible. But they make your power rates go up, you take away water. We've talked a lot about that there are technological solutions to that. There's closed loop cooling systems. There's ways to use waste heat to cool. And here, where we're all public power entities, from the city to our PUDs to our co-ops, who all buy from Wallner Power Administration, they're limited to new single load growth to 10 megawatts. And these data centers are like a gigawatt, so like order of magnitude greater So like, this is our perspective, that's what we talked about, how those scouts, but are you guys seeing, are you getting inquiries? And then from a planning perspective or from a city perspective, have you had any discussions about that? Anybody involved in it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I would say, I think there's been some feelers out there,
Yeah.
but and as far as anything like, imminent, I'm not aware of anything
Yeah.
imminent, in Pasco.
I concur with Greg.
Yeah.
Or with Craig. I know what I've heard about with Richland and West Richland from talking to my colleagues, so.
Yeah.
But we're not getting people kicked around in Kennewick.
Yeah.
And I think for the reasons that you mentioned, that you hear a lot about, it's water power, and how do you supply that? And so there's just concerns about, there's capacity in the areas that they would even venture to look at within Kennewick. We don't have a lot of land that's really suitable for that kind of development, because the bulk of our land that is available for development is in the Southbridge area, which has a lot of topographical issues. And so you're moving tons of dirt, trying to bring in an each data center or any other type of industrial development, and so it's just really not conducive to that, so we're not really.
No, I just got top of mind, so I don't know what. It's not bad. I like the Richlands answer. That's good.
The Richland staff.
Just the
Well, they are kicking tires.
Yeah.
As far as West Richland goes, we've told them we don't have any water for them to do their cleaning. We have water, but we're not sharing that. Facilities, when we'd rather see that residential vendor. And so they have to come with solutions to that and do that. Sure. As you mentioned, there is a power supply problem that they would have to solve as well. But conversations with Benton REA, there's a lot of concerns about rates going up. Rates are going to be going up anyway and across the different utilities, because a lot of the infrastructure built, back in the day when my dad was a lineman and putting up 230 kV lines across the nation. So they're old and they're antiquated. They don't have the technologies associated with them to prevent wildfires and other problems that can be caused from distribution lines. And so those are utility rates I've never really go up to try to address those things. That's what I've heard from them learning. Where if these data centers come, they have the potential of offsetting some of these costs, because the revenues that are generated from their usage to the power providers and those, as you mentioned, they're not privately traded companies. They're owned, they're public entities. And so they're going to hopefully, in my conversations with the NREA, they're responsible to their members, not to the data center. So I think that there's a lot of potential upsides to it. I've gone out to Quincy, went out and smelled the air there, listened to the data centers, toured their city, and I didn't hear any noise. I held the meter up and it's 45 decibels. It's the same as your dishwasher. And I heard the crickets chirping and the birds singing as I'm standing there next to these data centers. There's a lot of concerns out there, which may be legitimate in other states where they don't have the environmental regulations of Europe. But I think that our regulations that we have in place, I know personally, the conversation with them and us are making sure our codes are pretty strong, protect the residents from potential impacts, whether they're real or not real impacts, and just making sure that we're protecting them and the spirits, especially.
Well, and I think you can always see in economic development, we are the best at, running after something and wanting to be the first to have it, right? But I think everyone probably in this room has noticed we are not the first one to have a data center, and that is by design. There are a lot of benefits to learning from what's been done by other communities, even across the country. And we're very careful and use all of the, benefits that a municipality has in order to move things slowly and be thoughtful about putting code in place and making the right deal for the right the right thing for the community. So I think, you could see property taxes go down, even if your power goes up. So there are benefits that can come of it. Will it? We don't know. We haven't seen an offer. Have we had tires picked? Yes. Is there interest? Always. Anywhere you see flat ground is getting asked about a data center. So even if they say no, they're kidding. So it's a matter of time, and so it's more about making sure that it's right than no and the where. So I think that's really what the question is. But
Thanks for that. I think, the rhetoric around the power rates, like you said, and the very character description for veterinary is a good one. Pressures that I think we use our communities co-ops are seeing. One of the biggest rate pressure increases is actually compliance for the building transformation happen. So as each of the local utilities have to buy more renewable power, that's a market that's much higher than what the one power distribution had. It's going to be a rate increase just to meet the state's environmental compliance and regulations. So I think we always want to be real transparent about that you don't get caught up in the rhetoric, though. This is actually what's driving rates up. But, knock on wood, we've all got great people and city councils too, the PUD and co-op boards that's really their job. It's what we like them to do. Reliable.
and locally, they're all really focused on development, funds development.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
it's bring your
So,
power, bring your
yeah.
water, they're funding their situation. So,
We started a little bit late. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Really great turnout here in the Tri-Cities Business Center LLC boardroom, which is available for sponsorship. If anybody wants to talk to us about it, this is after the program's over. But thanks for coming in. We'll be back next month with our next webinar, in-person governance development. Thanks to all of our city partners today. Really appreciate everybody's time. Thanks.